everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive with us. Today, we're looking at something a little different about the Titanic. We all know the, tragic story and the end of the journey, but have you ever thought about the people who almost boarded the ship but didn't?
Yeah, it's interesting. There were an estimated 50 cancellations right before the Titanic set sail.
50 people. Wow, that's a lot. Back then, sailing wasn't as casual as just hopping on a plane as today. It seems strange that many people would change their minds, especially for such a famous maiden voyage. What do you think was going on?
Well, sailing in 1912 was a much bigger deal. Cancellations, especially on a luxury liner like the Titanic, were very rare. So 50 is definitely unusual.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, why didn't they get on this supposedly unsinkable ship? Let's start with some of the more famous people who canceled. I read that Guglielmo Marconi, the inventor of the radio, was one of them.
Yes, he was. Marconi was actually offered a free trip on the Titanic, but he decided to sail on the Lusitania instead. He needed a stenographer, and the Lusitania had better services for that. It's kind of ironic, isn't it? The man who revolutionized communication avoided a ship that we know had very limited radio capabilities.
That's incredible. Did he know about the Titanic's limited radio system? I mean, what made him choose the Lusitania?
Well, we can only speculate, but I think his decision really highlights how even groundbreaking inventions like that can have these unforeseen consequences. Perhaps Marconi just prioritized practical concerns over the allure of sailing on the Titanic.
Interesting. Then there's J.P. Morgan, the owner of the Titanic. He canceled his trip too, right?
Yes, he did.
Huh.
Morgan's last-minute cancellation has actually generated a lot of speculation over the years, some of it bordering on conspiracy theories. But considering his power and influence at the time, people naturally wonder why he wouldn't sail on his own ship.
Yeah, it's almost like there was a sense of foreboding about the Titanic before it even left port. Alfred Gwynne Vanderbilt, a wealthy businessman, also canceled his trip after getting a warning letter from his mother.
Right, Vanderbilt's story definitely adds to the intrigue. Was it truly mother's intuition, or a genuine feeling of danger, or just a mother's natural worry for her son? It's hard to say for sure. However, it's important to consider the societal norms of the time. Mothers, especially in wealthy families, held significant influence, especially when it came to their children's safety.
That's a really good point. It's interesting to consider how those social dynamics might have influenced such a major decision. Speaking of influence, I heard that Milton S. Hershey, the chocolate magnate, canceled his trip as well. Can you imagine a world without Hershey's chocolate because of a canceled Titanic trip?
It is hard to imagine. However, Hershey's cancellation was likely tied to business matters. The chocolate industry was booming in the early 1900s, and he was obviously a key player. He probably had important deals or projects that kept him on land.
It's a reminder that even seemingly small decisions can have a major impact. Weren't there a few other big names who canceled?
There were. Edgar Selwyn, a famous producer, chose to stay in England to review a friend's novel. Theodore Dreiser, the novelist, opted for a cheaper ship on his publisher's advice. And Henry Clay Frick, the steel tycoon, canceled because his wife had an accident.
It's amazing how many different reasons there were. Some seem purely practical, while others seem almost fated. Then there's John R. Mott. Wasn't he a Nobel Peace Prize winner who decided not to sail on the Titanic?
Yes, John R. Mott was offered free passage, but declined, saying he had more work to do.
Wow, his story sends chills down my spine. It makes you wonder, was it fate, a higher purpose, or simply a strong sense of commitment to his work?
Well, Mott dedicated his life to social justice and peace efforts, working with the YMCA and other organizations. He went on to achieve remarkable things after choosing not to board the Titanic. It's hard not to wonder if there was something more at play in his decision.
It's incredible to think about the lives he touched by not being on that ship. But we've only talked about a handful of famous people. What about the other 40-plus cancellations? The everyday people whose stories we may never know. What were their reasons for not sailing?
That's really where the mystery lies. We can only imagine the reasons those everyday people canceled their trips. Did they have financial troubles, family emergencies, sudden changes of plans, or maybe even a sense of unease about the voyage?
Yeah, it's fascinating to think that each of those unknown cancellations represents an untold story, a potential what-if moment in history. What do you think? Were these cancellations just a series of coincidences, or could there have been something more at play?
It's a question that has intrigued people for over a century. Some might argue that it was pure chance, just a series of unrelated events. But others believe there might be more to it, perhaps a subconscious awareness of danger, a gut feeling that something wasn't right.
Right, and that's what I find so captivating about this whole topic. We like to think we're so rational. But what about those times when we just know something, even if we can't really explain it?
Well, intuition is a powerful force, even if it's not fully understood. There's a growing body of research in psychology that suggests that our brains are constantly processing information and making predictions, sometimes without us even realizing it. It's like our subconscious is picking up on subtle cues and patterns that our conscious mind hasn't yet recognized.
Oh, so maybe some of those passengers sensed something amiss about the Titanic, even if they couldn't pinpoint exactly what it was.
It's possible. Think about the anxieties of the time. The Titanic was really pushing the boundaries of technology and engineering. Perhaps some people felt uneasy about the sheer size of the ship, the speed it was promised to achieve, or the risks inherent in transatlantic travel in those days.
Yeah, so it's like those anxieties manifested as a gut feeling that something wasn't right, and they decided to listen to that feeling.
Exactly. And remember, this was a time before widespread communication and information sharing. People relied more on their instincts and personal networks for decision-making. So if someone in their community expressed concerns about the Titanic, it could have easily swayed their decision.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, we're so accustomed to instant information today. It's hard to imagine making life-altering decisions based on intuition and limited information.
It's also interesting to consider the socioeconomic context. While the Titanic was incredibly luxurious, it also carried a diverse range of passengers from, wealthy first-class travelers to immigrants seeking a new life in America. Those in steerage particularly might have been more attuned to potential dangers or disruptions to their journey, as they were often more vulnerable to unforeseen circumstances.
So their cancellations could reflect like a heightened sensitivity to risk, a product of their life experiences, and perhaps a greater reliance on communal wisdom and intuition.
Precisely. And those stories, unfortunately, are the ones we're less likely to know. The historical record often focuses on the prominent figures, but the experiences of those in steerage are just as crucial to understanding the full picture of the Titanic and its passengers.
It's amazing to think about all those untold stories, those individual choices and motivations that ultimately led them away from the Titanic's tragic fate. But as you said, we may never know the full truth behind their decisions.
True, but that doesn't mean we can't learn from them. These stories remind us of the power of listening to our inner voice, that nagging feeling that tells us something is off. It's about respecting those moments of uncertainty and doubt, and perhaps being a little more cautious in the face of the unknown.
It's a good reminder that even in today's world, with all our technology and information intuition, still plays such a vital role in our lives.
Absolutely. The Titanic story is a stark reminder that even the most advanced technology and meticulous planning can't eliminate all risks. And sometimes the best course of action is to simply trust our instincts and step back from a situation that doesn't feel right.
So you're saying that it's okay to trust our gut, even if it means going against the grain or missing out on something that seems amazing.
Exactly. The stories of those who canceled their Titanic trips, whether based on logic, intuition, or circumstance, highlight the complexity of human decision-making, especially when faced with the unknown. It's a reminder that our choices, big and small, shape our lives in ways we can't always predict. And sometimes the most important decision we make is the one that leads us away from a path that might seem predetermined.
Yeah, it really makes you think about all the what-if moments in our own lives. How many times have we ignored that inner voice, that feeling that's telling us to reconsider or be cautious?
Oh, we've all been there. It's a universal human experience,
Yeah,
We all face uncertainty and have to make choices with incomplete information.
right. Do you think there's something that we can learn from these Titanic cancellations? Especially those who seemingly made decisions based on intuition or gut feelings?
Absolutely. I think the Titanic cancellations offer a powerful lesson about the importance of listening to our inner voice, acknowledging those moments of doubt and respecting our intuition even if we can't fully explain it.
So what does it all mean? Were these cancellations just a coincidence, or was there something more at play, some force that guided these people away from disaster?
Well, that's the ultimate question, isn't it? And it's a question that each listener has to grapple with on their own, I think. There's no definitive answer. But I think what makes these stories so compelling is that they force us to confront the mysteries of life, the unpredictable nature of fate, and the role of intuition in our decision-making.
Yeah, it's like we're all sailing on our own personal Titanics, navigating through life's uncertainties. And sometimes the most important decision we make is the one that steers us away from a potential catastrophe, even if we don't fully understand why at the time.
I like that analogy. These stories are a powerful reminder that we're not merely passengers in life at the mercy of fate or circumstance. We have agency, we have intuition, And we have the power to make choices that align with our deepest sense of what's right, even if it means deviating from the charted course.
So, for all our listeners out there, the next time you're facing a major decision, take a moment to pause, listen to that inner voice, and trust your instincts. It might just lead you down a path that's more aligned with your true purpose, even if it's not the path you initially expected to take.
And, if you're fascinated by what we've talked about today, I encourage you to explore the vast world of Titanic history. There are so many individual accounts of passengers and crew members, each one offering a unique perspective on this historical event. You might be surprised at what you discover, and who knows, you might even uncover some of those untold stories behind the cancellations we discussed today.
That's a great point. There's always more to learn and discover. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of Titanic cancellations. It's been a fascinating exploration of history, intuition, and the power of human choice. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep trusting your gut.
Thanks for hanging in there with us. We have a short questions and answer video. The number of the video is 53. See if you get it right.